Alors là, Chapot, l'hebdo. Un podcast audio et vidéo de et avec
Philippe Chapot. Alors le chapeau.
Alors là, Chapot, le podcast qui salue les professionnels de l'audio d'aujourd'hui, de demain et d'hier aussi. Et aujourd'hui, on a le plaisir d'accueillir Nick Dunkerley. And I will switch to English, Nick, because I'm not sure if your French is really that good.
I can't even order a cup of coffee.
Oh, really? Well,
it's so embarrassing. And I'm coming to
Okay.
Paris. I'm going to be so lost.
Yeah, I'll tell you how to do when you'll be in Paris, because we will have the chance to have Nick at the Paris radio show for a keynote. But first of all, Nick, let me introduce, and you're going to introduce yourself, Nick Dunkerley. Mm-hmm. So you're the CEO of Hindenburg, which we use. I mean, I think the first time I heard about Hindenburg was a long time ago, maybe 15 years ago, and mm-hmm. It was at a meeting. It was not UNESCO. It was I think it was with Radio France and Urti, exactly. Mm-hmm. You were a partner of the Urti, and
exactly.
I discovered your software, which is, for those who are watching and listening, it's a very, very nice software that you can download on your computer, and you can have also you have it also on your you have an app as well, a recording app, and it's an editor for radio professionals and audio professional podcasters, and also audiobooks. You have a specific version for audiobooks, and we've been using this software for a long time, and now with the podcast and radio house where we have our offices, we have Hindenburg all over the place on all the machines that are here, and it's just so easy and so nice to work with this software. So really, if you never tried Hindenburg, you have to try it. It's pretty easy to try. I think you have a demo on your website.
Oh yeah, we've got quite a few, and you can download a trial and try it out.
Yeah, exactly.
And yes, and we the experience should be that you feel that you have an effortless experience. So if you feel like doing audio sometimes can be stressful, this is kind of meant to calm you down. So you're going to get there. You're going to meet your deadlines. All is going to be well.
You have mostly radio station as clients, or now it's a lot of podcasters as well?
There's a lot of podcasters as well, yes, obviously. But we've designed it for radio producers. Should we tell a little bit about the background so we better understand it? Okay, so there was a problem. We had a problem back in the day. Well, I didn't, but the whole broadcast business had a problem back in the late 90s when everything went digital. That was that as soon as, it's not pointing fingers, but management level at broadcast stations found that journalists could be given a laptop with some software on it, and then they could do their own audio editing. That basically meant that nearly all the sound engineers were sacked. That was a terrible shame because no one really understood the collaboration there were between sound engineers and journalists, and in that meet, beauty came alive. Anyway, the issue then was that the journalists were given software that was designed, yes, for audio production, but it was designed for audio engineers. And the way that the digitalization worked at the time was you looked at the real world and then you copied that into software. So we saw that with what can we? Oh yeah, a good example could be like word editing. So you had a typewriter, and then you said, let's make a digital version of a typewriter, and off we go. Typewriter was the easy version. And then you had typography, and then you had image manipulation, what have you. But when it came to audio, what we really did was we went into the biggest studios we could find, and that would typically be a music studio. If you've ever been into a music studio, you will know that it's a daunting place. You do not want to be left alone in a music studio.
Yeah.
So there's like a huge sound desk, and maybe you got like 78 strips, and you have 19-inch racks just blinking at you. You have no idea what's going on. And then you have like a 24-track tape recorder running in the background. It's a fascinating place, but you would not be one to left alone there. So that is exactly what we did. We took a journalist, take this nice young lady, put her into the chair in the studio, slammed the door on our way out, and just said, "Have fun." And that is really the situation that many reporters and journalists found themselves in at the time. So obviously, they were kind of in a bit of a panic. And also the radio stations, they also found that the output that they got from these journalists was not up to par. Because how could it be? They didn't know what they were doing. For instance, here through EBU, we have rules of thumb for different kinds of levels. And one of them is that your narration should peak at -9 on a Q ppm meter. Everyone knows that. You know, you can wake anyone up at 4 a.m. and get them to recite that. No one knows that. Absolutely no one knows that. Yeah. The thing is, you still have to deliver. If you're working at a broadcast radio station, you still have to deliver at those levels. So it was a mess. The levels were all over the place. The segments that people were making were really bad because the journalists were scared of doing anything wrong, so they just did the minimal input they could. So what we've been trying to do, what we have done for the past 15 years, as you point out, is give the journalists a tool that they can feel happy about using. So for them, is very intuitive. Oh, so this is how I do it. I just like playing with Lego. This is fine. I get that. But because we're a bunch of nerds and radio people here at the company, we know what the output needs to be. So as soon as, for instance, we've got something called auto level, that sounds, funky, but really what it does is you input some audio or record some audio, and it would automatically set it, and it will recognize this is narration. Oh, so we need to set that to -9 on a Q ppm meter. So it does that. So we're trying to uphold these broadcast formats. The same on the output. I think we were the first door to use loudness because we were following the P Loud group from EBU, if you remember that one at the time.
Yeah.
Let's not go into what loudness is because we're going to be here all day.
No, but loudness is something, it's concretely because there's a lot of people that don't know about that. But for instance,
should we do it? Okay, go on.
If you're a podcaster and you really want to have a right level and be listened in the same level on all podcast platform, the easy part of Hindenburg is like you just go to -16 dB. And then you export it, and it's just at the right, and that's very few software where it's simple to export those kind of loudness and to find where it is and how it works. Here it's very simple on Hindenburg, and that's your point. Is making software simple. So that everyone can understand it. And if you need to export for radio, it's -23 dB. Everything is just already inside of it and very accessible and very simple to find. So that's.
And you can even set up multiple outputs and so on and so forth. And the whole point is that we realize that if you're working in a broadcast station, you have deadlines, and they might be in 2 hours' time. We don't have all day or a week or something to faff around. You need to get deliverables out, and you need to get them out at a broadcast level. So doing that without, getting into a state of panic, that was one thing. But the next thing was that, okay, so maybe we saved so much time that you can actually start playing around. And at the end of the day, that's what the listeners want. They want something that is interesting to listen to. So being able to add ambient sound, maybe a sound bed, a music bed, doing some more interesting edits, that kind of thing, is again really easy to do. It's like if you've seen it, obviously this is, well, it's not only audio, but we're not going to show it. But just making Some of the things that you do within radio all the time is like you make a duck. And a duck is that you have a sound bed, and then you have your narration on top of it. And you just want the sound bed to duck down the volume underneath.
Yeah, the
And
ducking.
doing is ducking. It's really simple. And you can do that in all audio systems, no problem. But we realize this is something that we do like all the time. So how can we do that a little bit faster? So if you imagine a door in your head, typically you have like a pen tool and you set these dots. So if you want to make a duck, then you set 4 dots and then you pull 2 of them down and you're trying to align them and you sit there for a bit of time. What we did was to look at it and go, no, that's taking way too long. Just drag a selection, pull down a line, done, on to the next one. We can't spend time on fiddling around. Now, some would say it doesn't have the precision of other tools like Pro Tools. And my argument has always been, this is radio. We're like the hammer in the toolbox. We're not the scalpel. Yeah. We need to get going. We can't stay around all day fiddling with, we just need to do this little thing.
Yeah, sound engineers. Yeah. Mm.
But it's fine to do that. But it's radio. It's here 1 minute and it's gone the next. No one's going to pay attention to that little detail. But what they will pay attention to is the overall sound of your things and the overall storytelling. That's what's important. Focus on the storytelling, not on the minute details.
That's the baseline also of Hindenburg is it's all about the story. And I remember the first images when you came out with because the name of Hindenburg is that balloon
yes.
And the story about that went around it. So it's really nice communication visuals you have as well, and you kept it throughout all those years. So you didn't really change, and you stayed stable, and you make the software evaluate simply, and it has now AI, but we're gonna go into the story now about your vision about radio and how we can't say
it's evolving.
Evolving in a sense, of course, but it has AI. But it's AI that you download on your computer. It's not AI that you use on the cloud, and that's something you really wanted to do with your software.
Yeah, that's very purposeful because as journalists, you often deal with sensitive material. And one thing that you have to bear in mind is when you're using a cloud service, you are uploading your material to a computer somewhere. And how that is monitored, the security levels around it, and so on and so forth, it's probably fine. But I know there are many places that cannot use cloud services. For instance, in the health industry, you can't just upload sensitive material. I have spoken to New York Times at one point to say, well, we can definitely never upload anything to a cloud service. So I knew from the get-go, if we were to do AI, we had to use it locally on the machine. And that obviously, there's some challenges with that, because one thing is running AI on 100,000 GPUs in a data center somewhere, and another thing is trying to get that same amount of compute out of your laptop. Yeah. So it doesn't require a huge amount. It runs perfectly well. I'm a Mac person myself, but it runs perfectly well on an M1, which is fairly common nowadays. On Windows, it also works now, but it does require that you have some kind of GPU, because AI requires GPU to actually be able to work. But otherwise, it's all running very nicely, very quickly. And what we're using AI for right now is transcription. And the idea there is, it's not the whole idea that came out a few years ago that now you can use transcription to do audio editing, which has kind of been buzzword. It's not actually true, because if the precision of transcription doesn't really work that way. Just to be a little bit geeky just for a second, when the AI does a transcription, it adds timestamps to every word. But these timestamps are not always as accurate as you would want them to be. So if you're just blindly thinking, I can just use my transcription and that will sound fine, you're going to mess things up. And this comes back to one of my other points. Using any AI tool, you have to actually know what you're doing. You have to be a professional. You can't just substitute lack of knowledge for, then I can just use AI. If you can't monitor it and you can't hear when you've done a bad edit or something like that, it's still going to be bad at the end of the day. AI is not going to save you. It's going to help you, but it's not going to save your work. Yeah. And it's the same thing with if you use AI for restoration tools. It sounds like a great idea. I have the thing that sounds really bad. I put it into an AI and now it sounds really good. But the problem with it is you're black boxing things. You're just putting something into a black box and then something comes out. You have no idea how that happened and you can't change it. And so what we try to do when we approach things is that, yes, you should be able to use clever tools, but ultimately you should still be in control of the output. And we, at any time, we would recommend that you actually also know what it is that you're doing. So when we can and have time, we actually do try to train people in how they should do proper recordings, do a proper interview. I've done so many lectures on just how to do a proper interview, because you say the most commonly asked question for someone like me who has a company like this is, can we save it in the mix? Can we just make a bad recording and then can you just save it in the mix? And the answer is still the same now as it was when I was asked like 20 years ago when I was working at a radio station. No, you can't. Go out and do it again. But let me tell you how you should have done it in the first place. Yeah, because if there's no one there, exactly, the basics, the physics. But the problem nowadays is, I actually worked at the broadcast here in Denmark. So I was the one telling the journalists, no, do it again, but let me tell you how. Nowadays, because I'm not there and no one else is there, this knowledge is being lost. Mm-hmm. So there's no one to actually tell the young people how to do it properly. So they might be learning from YouTube clips or whatever, but there's not actually that in-house knowledge where we teach from generation to generation how to do things properly.
So they're the loss of quality, you mean, in
definitely,
knowledge
yeah.
And quality?
Yeah.
Because that means that they are using maybe some enhancement that you can use on AI solutions now to recover the bad recording, but it's not really doing the job.
It's still not good. No, because anytime you manipulate sound, it's going to get worse. You might be slightly better than the worst you had 2 seconds ago, yeah. But it's still not good. You see, if you've done it properly the first time around. For instance, if you get a recording and someone if they've done a recording in a cafe and they just have, pin microphones on them because they don't want to be a nuisance with actually putting a microphone in front of them. And then they afterwards say, well, it doesn't sound very good. There's a lot of noise and disturbance on it. It's like, don't do a recording in a cafe. Go somewhere else. You have to think ahead. You have to think, how's this going to work when I get home? So take someone to a quiet place. Don't use these pin microphones. Use an actual dynamic microphone. Put it in their face like you did in the good old days. Get close to someone when you interview. These very simple tips and tricks that we're not young men anymore. We know these things and we can tell the young ones. But if they don't hear them, they'll just go out and make a mess every single time because no one's going to stop them and tell them, no, this is how you actually do it.
So you're having as a baseline, it's all about the story, and you believe in long form radio. That's something that is very
Yeah.
important for you. For you, and I must admit that at the podcast show 2 years ago, I think it was a company that was specialized in long format of podcasting, which means that they went into a story. They covered it, and instead of just using 2 minutes out of this interview, they took the subject and then they came back 1 week later, like if it was, I don't know, an earthquake or something like that. They came back to see the people after, and they made a long story out of their podcast, so that it's not just, the news that you're looking
Yes,
for.
exactly.
It's
Yeah.
really the story after, maybe the story before, long form radio. That's something you believe in. And I think that's something that is so important in radio and that has been lost. There's few stations, or basically maybe public stations, because they have more fundings, that are working and that have time for journalists to do long form radio. But how do you think long form radio can have a future in private radio stations, for instance?
Oh, private radio stations, that's a good one, because there's probably not a lot of money in it. So it's easier to leave it to the publicly funded. I think you can earn money on long form radio, but you have to do it very well, because the numbers are. Let's take a show like Serial or S-Town, these things. They had millions of downloads, which is great, and I hope really that they earn quite a bit of money on that as well. But it took them so long to do these things. S-Town, for instance, I think that stretched over at least a year in production of these, 8 episodes?
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. It's utterly amazing. And I think the world will be a lesser place if we didn't have productions like that. And that is really where I'm coming from. I don't think this is a question of should we do it? Is it commercially viable? I think we have to do it, because otherwise our societies will crumble in dust. And the thing is, exactly as you were saying, you can have news that gives you the news about what's happening right now, but it doesn't put things into context. And without context, we're just going to be running from one story to the next, and being frightened or aggravated or emotionally distressed somehow, because that's what sells. And at the end of the day, we must bear in mind, especially commercially, news is something that we produce to sell a product, typically commercials. So it's a driver, and the more the what's it called? Sharp angle. It's not called that. I'm just translating from Danish now.
Yeah, well, I can do it from French, but
we could do it from both angles and not get it right. No. The narrower you can tell your story, the more black and white it gets. So a story, really, when it comes to news, is built up in a fairly simplistic way. You have a subject that has an object. So you have a woman that would like to become a princess. And on her ways, there's some adversaries, I don't know, a dragon, and then you have some helpers, a knight, something like that. That's a typical story that has built-in structure where you would be compelled to listen to that story. Will she make it? Will she overcome the obstacles on the way? Yeah. And this is the exact same structure that you have a look at the news. All the stories are basically built the same way. And they're built in a way so we should be emotionally attached to it somehow. We should feel, oh, that's darn right. Someone should do something about that. It's, that kind of thing. And the more aggravated we can get, you can see this on social media as well. The more aggravated we get, the more that grabs our attention. And the more attention it gets, this is all the attention economy, the longer we will stick there until the commercials come on. Yeah. So it's a whole machine. But that is not necessarily telling us anything about how the world is. It's it's about the purpose of things. But what it is doing, sorry, that's if there's a ping, that's just my son trying to. I don't know if you can hear that.
No,
Oh, good.
We did not.
Good. But what I think is the thing that we're missing here is that the media is part of the problem that we see, generally speaking, in the world that is becoming more and more polarized. There's us and them constantly. We see it especially in America. You have blue and you have red. And we also see it in Europe. There's always us and them, us and them. And the stories that we tell, especially in the news, and the shorter the stories become, the more it becomes us and them. And that I find is a problem. So what long form radio can do is put things into context. And especially what radio could do, and maybe we should dwell into that, is also it can create empathy in a way that other medias can't. So for me, at least, I think that long form audio is really, really, really important. And what we should be looking at in the future, if we are to, let's get all the way up there. Let's do the whole save the world thing. If we're going to unite Europe again, I think long form radio is going to be a significant part of that.
But I think it's also the same on with proximity radio, small radio stations, local radio stations.
Oh, definitely,
because those are the one that maybe have more capacity possibility, because it's they're community stations with people working for free, or just and the stories there on proximity are often pretty interesting. But it's the same, they're copying private radio stations, and they're doing short stuff like TikTok radio, which is, I think, the opposite we should do in terms of content for radio stations, or at least invite people to hear more later on at maybe in during the night, or in the afternoon, where instead of just putting music, because music is nice, but there's also, you need a place. And then podcasting is also something that can help you to do long format. You can put a small piece on your radio, and then use the rest of the material for a podcast where you go deeper inside of the story, and you put that context that is really needed if you want to understand a point.
Yes, you can. Let's just, for one thing, agree that long form radio isn't necessarily just having a long interview.
No, yes, of course.
No, okay, but we see that quite a lot nowadays, where podcasting has now become, well, basically what we're doing, having a long chat with someone who has an opinion. And there's nothing wrong with that. I listen to quite a few of these things. But the problem with that is that it's just us two having opinions. It's not necessarily any of us trying to actually take the helicopter view of things and putting things into context, or looking down on us and saying, yes, but there's also a different way of looking at it, that kind of thing. So we have these opinionated medias. And basically, the way it looks right now, nearly like 90% of all podcasts are just become chats.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't think that is the way that especially the larger broadcasters should go down the same path, because they have the means, and also the community radio actually shouldn't necessarily do the same thing. I think we should be looking at how can we create more interesting formats. And again, going back to the whole point, what is it that we're trying to do? Are we just trying to get more listeners in? Is that the goal at the end of the day? Or are we actually, as journalists, as storytellers, are we actually trying to contribute to making societies better places to be? Again, if we look at America, let's point fingers at America. That's quite easy at the moment. If people were better at understanding one another and listening to one another's points of view, we probably wouldn't be in the mess that we are in at the moment. we're getting to the point where it would be a safer world if people just listened to one another and had some kind of empathy with one another. You don't have to agree with someone else, but just as long as you have empathy for their point of view. And this is, again, just going back, I think long form radio can really help there.
And then, following that long form radio, you got an ID.
Yeah, because I was thinking, it's another one of those, well, if no one else is going to do it, I'll do it.
Yeah, that's what you told me. You said, hey, I have an ID and no one else is doing it, so I'm doing it. And I said, wow, that's interesting. Let's talk about it.
It's also really stupid, but I love the idea. Well, the idea was it came out of a discussion very much like this. So what's wrong with the world kind of discussion. And it was one of those where I said, well, what we really need is just a huge pile of money. That's what we need. And then we'll just give out all the money to people who want to experiment and have fun with just long form audio formats, because they need to have time. Give them this is good. There was no wine involved or spirits in any way. Give the people time to research. Give them money to travel. Give them the time to actually do the proper editing. Give them people to collaborate with, because you can't do proper stories on your own. You have to collaborate with other people. It's very important. So this idea came out of, that is what we need. This is what public radio should be doing. But, they're not always doing that anymore. Unfortunately, at least not the ones that I've been heard. There's a few droplets here and there, but basically everyone's doing the same thing. It's either news, talking heads. So back to the big pile of money. So then as we started talking about it, okay, so let's be more concrete. One thing is it would be a foundation, and then the specific goal of the foundation would be building bridges between people and communities and countries and what have you. So all stories should have that angle. Not how do we make these divisive stories, but how do we do storytelling formats that can build bridges between people so you actually understand one another. And the interesting thing, we hadn't really talked about what the output format should be, but this is what we need. We need bridge building storytelling. So why use audio? Well, what audio can do is it can literally get in your head, which is a beautiful, we don't really think about that too often. We often think about audio as this like cheaper sibling of television, and we should just disregard it because it's just a cheap media. But audio can do stuff that television can never do. It can literally get inside your head. And what happens when you're in someone's head and telling them a story is they start visualizing. Now, this might be obvious. You say, yes, of course I'm visualizing. There's no images. I have to make the pictures myself. But when it comes to this kind of story, if you're listening to two people that disagree about something, you are now visualizing what they look like, or something like that. But as you do that, in that process of visualizing, you are embedding yourself into the characters. And when you do that, when you embed yourself into a story, you become one with it. And then you cannot afterwards just point fingers at it and say, I don't like you, because it would be like pointing a finger at yourself and say, I don't like myself very much, because you are now a part of the story. So it's a more empathetic media. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. And I love that part about audio. So could this be just let's throw millions at some video projects? Sure, but it would never be the same. I think what we can do with audio is very, very special when it comes to building bridges. And then on top of that, I think that we need these pinnacle places where people can just, create something that otherwise would never be created. And you can say, well, not everyone can do that, but it's not the point. It's like, what's a good example? You know, Noma, the restaurant.
No.
There's a Danish restaurant called Noma. It's like it's been 5-star world best restaurant many years in a row.
Okay.
And what they did was they looked at Danish food and said, okay, we're only going to create Danish food, and that's our restriction. But what we're going to do is we're going to make it the best that we can do in the entire world. So it's one of those moonshot things. Let's make something absolutely fantastic. And you can say it doesn't really make sense because all people can't just make this kind of food. But what it does do, it pulls up everyone else. So this can be done. We can go in that direction. You see what I mean? So the undergrowth will follow up. But if no one does that moonshot, no one's going to follow. So what we would like to do is be the ones that are the blue skying, so to speak, the moonshots that can create something where you just go, wow, I had no idea that that could be done. And then from that, hopefully build a vibe around audio again, where audio can be great. And it has been before. We forget that sometimes. Some of the most amazing things and experiences I've had have been with audio, the most emotional things with audio. But we're just now getting to a point where we don't really talk about content anymore. We're only just talking about getting clicks and likes and all that. It just becomes so commercialized. We need to get back to why are we doing these things? What kind of society do we want to have? What are the values that we want to treasure? Is that just having more, or is it having something that's less but better and kinder?
So how
you started me? I'm very sorry. I'm going to.
How do you? Yeah, no, but it's really interesting because that's it's a great project because you're really working on it right now. So you're looking for money. You're looking.
Well,
for
right now we're building the
that's...
scaffolding. We'll get to the money bit. I'm not too worried about the money bit, but we need to have the ideas in place first, and the foundation for the foundation, so to speak. So knowing how we want to build it before we actually start adding bricks and mortar to it, to get the right people around it. And we have some great people that are working now on some of these ideas, and we're going to be trying to see if we can pull more people in. It's not a closed project in any way. We're just interested in talking to people and see what we can do together, and find people that have the same vision. And the amazing thing is, as soon as we start talking about these things, there's so many people who go, yes, why don't we do that? And I was like, yeah, exactly. Why don't we do that? And he's like, we should do that. And he's like, I agree with you. We should do that. So the enthusiasm that I find as soon as we start talking about that is amazing. It's actually quite touching, to be honest. There's so many people who want to see this happen.
So how do you have some more concrete plans, or if someone is interested, how does it work? How can you get some help? How can you get people in investing time, or and how does it work?
Yeah, it's actually a good point. Thought it through. I think they can just write to me, to be honest. I'll take that first and foremost, and I'll pass it on. We are setting up the first proper, is it called a summit or a meeting when you get the first get together?
Convention or
convention? Well, it's not going to be a convention, it's just going to be a meeting, but we're going to set that up in at Radio Days Europe in Riga, where they've been. I actually, and again, this came out of a chat I was talking to Rosie, who was one of the arrangers of it, and we were talking about this during the chat, and she's like, "That's amazing. Well, do you want a room? Do you want to get together and you can all chat?" And it's like,
that's the Rosie I know. Yeah, that's
exactly. She's absolutely such a peach. She's really amazing. So yes, we're going to see. We're already some people that are going to be meeting there from both here in Denmark and Serbia and Germany and hopefully in Slovenia. Oh, yeah, Slovenia as well. And then we're going to see if we can just open that up to anyone else who will be at Radio Days who will be interested in this. So can all get together and we can just have a laugh and talk about where we want to the future of audio to go and think out of the box.
Yeah, so you think out of the box, and the idea behind that, of course, is to be able to finance, to fund some projects, and to select them, and to get with them, so that it goes in production, and then maybe
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how we do that. But my idea is we're not going to pitch this as an audio project because, in essence, it's not. This is a cultural project. This is a democratization project. And this can be seen as if it was an art installation or something like that. It's a bigger thing. If we go out and say this, we want to produce a podcast, 8 episodes, we might be able to raise, what, €5,000, something like that. Because no one pays money for audio. No. What we're going to go out and do instead is say, no, this is something of significance. This is something that is going to create ripples through society. This is something that brings us all together. So we're going to go with, I'm not going to put numbers on the budgets, but the budgets are going to look more like what you would do for television.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about a few thousand. We're talking about hundreds of thousands or maybe millions, because exactly we want to do these moonshots. This can be done. And and that's going to be fun. And then we'll probably be looking into the larger funds for like EU, Bosch, Siemens, Novo Nordisk, whatever they're called in America. I can't remember them by heart. And hopefully we can get some of these people interested in trying to actually make a real difference.
The real difference. Well, we'll surely follow all that you're working on with Red Tech and also La Lettre de la Radio and Podcast Magazine, and we was really happy to have you on this podcast and to be able to talk about this project, because it's not often that there's projects like that nowadays in the audio environment. So it's really nice to be able to have that. And of course, if you are interested to get involved in that project, you can we'll put your contact details on the article, because you're going to be an article as well.
You're very welcome. Yeah.
On our website. Thank you very much, Nick. You're also partner of the World Radio Day 2026.
A proud partner.
Proud partner of for the 13th of February, where we have 10 technical partners that joined this great event. Once again, it's not often that radio is talking about radio. So there's one day, the World Radio Day, to be able to talk about radio instead of talking about all the other medias. Just talk about yourself and use this day to say everything that you could do, and you can find maybe again your singularity, because so many radio stations are looking like each other, and we hope that it's going to be better in the future. But that's another story we can tell.
It will.
We can make a story about radio, and a long form radio story about radio and when it was created till now and where it's going, which is what we're going to talk about at the Paris Radio Show. We'll be very happy to welcome you, and we'll follow everything you're doing with that audio. You don't have a name for the Audio Foundation? The Audio Foundation?
Not yet. I just came up with actually Blue Sky Foundation. What do you think? Does that sound good?
Blue Sky. That sounds like the social network.
Blue Sky. Does it? No? Should I find another one?
Is it?
Well,
it's not.
Let's just receive ideas. Any ideas? Just send them our way.
Yeah, I think Blue Sky is the social platform. American social platform called Blue Sky.
Is it Blue Sky? Okay, in that case,
Blue Sky. Yeah, it's the new one. That's why it rang a bell.
Well, you won't know what he uses, unfortunately.
That
which
could
is a
be
shame.
That could be an idea at the Radio Days Europe to try to
come up with a name.
To have a brainstorming about the name for this Audio Foundation. But Audio Foundation is a good name.
Just the Audio Foundation. It's not too bad.
I mean, TAF, the Audio Foundation.
The Audio Foundation, just TAF.
All right, we'll see about that. Thank you very much, Nick, for your time and everything you're putting up with your software, which is really, really great. I really also invite people to if they do audiobooks, to try out the software you have for audiobook, which is amazing. And you just, I mean, it helps you to
we could do an entire podcast just on that.
Yeah. Honestly, if you're making audiobook, just look at at Hindenburg.com, if I'm correct. It's com?
Yes, and that tool is called Narrator. It's easy to distinguish from Pro, which is for radio, and Narrator is for audiobooks.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much. We'll see you in Paris soon.
I'm looking forward to coming to Paris.
Take care. Bye, Nick.
Bye.
Alors là,
Chapot, Hebdo. Un podcast audio et vidéo de et avec
Philippe Chapot et Brûle à tout.